Welcome back to the Movement is Medicine podcast. Dr. Gene Strackerbrod here with Dr. Megan. It's my birthday, Weezer. Dr. Corey, I don't have an introduction today. How? But you do have a joke for the people.
I do have a joke. It's Megan's new favorite joke. I said it earlier and she laughed for about 4.5 minutes straight.
She gets one joke for her birthday, just one joke. This is it.
I asked, what's it called when somebody's has boob sweat?
What's it called, Corey?
Humidities. And be prepared for another 4.5 minutes of laughing.
You just got canceled. You can't say that. Not allowed to say that. We're allowed to say it, though, because Megan walks around all the time screaming titties. So
I do. I do.
we get permission.
Yeah.
And it's her birthday. So
It's my birthday!
so we can say things like that.
Titties?
Well, we can't anymore. But now that you said it, it opens the door for us to say it. Happy birthday, Megan.
Thank you.
You got any birthday plans today?
Well, we had a birthday lunch just now.
What did you have?
I had pizza.
Did I have any?
No.
And whose fault is that?
I had a dentist appointment and I wasn't allowed to eat anything hot, crunchy, or gooey for 3 hours.
That's the adjective they use.
Quite literally describing a pizza.
I think they said sticky.
But
I couldn't
you-
think of the word.
You went gooey instead of sticky.
I couldn't think of the word.
I don't think those are even synonyms.
Gooey, that's pretty close. Gooey and sticky.
Gooey's not sticky. Gooey is like slimy,
Slimy can be sticky.
but it's not.
Gooey can be sticky.
Could be, but it's not.
Put in the comment section
And
if
then
you think.
tonight, I'm going.
Oh yeah, your birthday.
I feel like that conversation was about to go down a weird hole. So,
Oh, hi-yo.
Don't get canceled.
Tonight I'm going to dinner, and then Saturday I'm going to a beer fest with some friends.
Where are you going for dinner?
Ni hao.
What?
Ni hao. That's hello in Chinese.
Chinese.
But anyway,
Yes, it is.
it's a Chinese restaurant in Baltimore.
Have you been there before?
No, I have not. I've been trying to go, and so now I'm going for my birthday because Chinese food is, well, Asian cuisine, all Asian cuisine, which is kind of a lot, but is my favorite.
You've been to China, right?
I've been to China.
Yeah. How does Americanized Asian cuisine compare to the real deal?
We make it more gooey.
See? And if you get some of that orange chicken juice on your hands, they become sticky.
Yes.
Ergo,
There we go.
gooey and sticky
Ergo.
are cinnamon. Cinnamons.
Tell us what's really on your mind.
I really want a cinnamon roll.
Here's where I'm trying to get to. Can somebody please get me a cinnamon roll?
Oh my god.
About right for this podcast. That's cool. I think it's nice.
It's not the same.
What, cinnamon rolls?
Oh,
We're on that.
he wasn't listening.
Yeah.
So
The Chinese food?
It's not the same. It's better there, naturally.
Yeah.
Also, General Tso's is an Americanized dish. That is not a Chinese dish.
I think everyone knows that at this point.
Yeah.
But, well, I mean, what does Chinese restaurants sell it, right? So it's like them saying it's okay because we make it. They're also saying you standard Americans in your simple palate.
You
of
heathens.
pretty much.
we like our sugar chicken. I don't know what else.
Yeah, we like sugar and we like salt, not hard. Let's crank up that MSG. We're good to go. I like when birthdays going out and trying something new. Like it could be in the same like realm of category, but I think it's cool experiencing something new on your birthday.
I'm excited.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
On this episode, because I mean we are recording a podcast, and I think
Oh, we are. I forgot about that.
aside from banter and figuring out what Corey does or does not want to eat, I think we talked about. No, it wasn't the chocolate bars. Was like 2 or 3 episodes ago.
Yeah, that was a while ago. Very pre-Halloween.
That's true. That's true. Oh, did you guys do anything last night for Halloween?
I ate an entire sleeve of Oreos.
Again?
Mhm.
This is not the first time.
every Halloween, I get the orange cream Oreos, and I eat them.
Is this a tradition for you?
Yep.
Oh, wow. Okay.
For me.
I worked, and then when I got home, my roommate surprised me with a birthday thing.
Birthday thing?
Yeah. Well, I opened the door and there were balloons everywhere.
Hmm.
And Nellie and I walked in and they hopped out of the shadows and were like, surprise! Had cookies and presents and hugs and decorations. It was cute. It was very
Nice.
nice. Yeah.
It's good roommates.
They have great roommates.
That's very cool. It was kind of not a great night last night for Halloween. It was kind of rainy and cold,
Yeah, it was yucky.
so we just took the kids to a couple houses next door, and they had plenty of candy. And then we just watched movies. So kind of worked out because we didn't.
I went to bed
Have
at
to deal with-
9:30. I was so tired.
I was pretty tired too.
Something cool that Michelle Greenfield said when they used to pass out candy, the kids would have to do a trick to get their treats. They could do
Caesar
like
House. Everybody would have hated.
Like break dancing or something.
sure, you could break dance, you could tell a joke, you
Yeah.
could do like push-ups or
Wow.
whatever you want to
That's
do. Yeah, to
cool.
earn your candy. Oh, you could get a fun size candy for not doing a trick, or you
Mhm.
could get a king size bar for doing
Oh,
Yeah.
a trick. Yeah, that's what it was.
This neighborhood behind us, where a bunch of our members live, we took the kids there 1 year and only 1 year because they give out full size candy on everything. Like we
Mm.
went there and they had whole bags of Hershey bars, like
Oh my
the
god.
big size Hershey bars.
That's expensive
Who-
too.
It doesn't matter. I mean, it's nice of them, but like, what are you doing, people? Like, our children had bags of full size candy.
Yeah, that's Halloween.
No, yes,
That-
but
That's a
like,
Monday.
When you,
No, I'm just kidding.
when you start negotiation with the children, right? They're like, "Oh, I want 6 candies," and you're like, "No, you're gonna have 2 candies." They're like, "Okay, I want 5 candies." Like, "No, you're gonna have 3 candies." So ultimately, we get it 4 candies. So normal would be like 4 of these, little size, bite size candies, but in that neighborhood, it's like full size Snickers and Hershey bars, and
Wow.
yeah, just be normal, be cheap like everyone else.
I think
Stop being
ne-
so considerate.
I think next year I might dress up and like push around a stroller, but cover up the stroller
Oh my god.
just so I could get candy.
I'm pretty sure you could just go up and trick or treat. Nobody's gonna care.
No?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll
Good.
go with you.
Okay.
On this podcast, let's talk about preparing for things. We've covered on the last few about things that don't matter much, but people take a lot of time and focus and energy on. So we talked about posture. We talked about stretching. Last episode, we talked about what makes a good coach, which I think is important from approaching training wise. Megan is trying to dress up her microphone.
I was trying to put the sunglasses on.
She's still trying. She's still trying. One
There
of
we
our
go.
members,
That's
It worked.
Colleen, made a good point in that.
Wait.
What are you doing?
Go down a little bit. Right there. Left. Right there. There you go. It looks like you're wearing them.
Or she can just put them on her face.
I did.
Oh lordy!
It's weird hour.
It's every hour. I mean, weird. Pick an hour. It's an
Welcome
accurate
to
statement. Welcome to
recharge.
recharge. Exactly.
These are gonna poke me in the eyeball.
Yes, and we will all laugh at you. So Colleen said something in our group chat. She was like, "If everything is useless, what is left?" And I was thinking about that, and the point of our podcast wasn't to say everything is useless. It's just
Take
Trying-
the pressure off.
exactly to say that a lot of things you're stressed about don't matter as much as you think they matter, and here are the things that do matter. So I thought that might be a good thing to chat about on this podcast. Is if stretching doesn't really matter, big picture, posture doesn't really matter, big picture, it does beg the question: what does matter? What is relevant for people to actually do day in and day out? And we've covered a few things, right? We talked about training, which is
I think I didn't mean to.
No,
I
go
didn't
for it.
Interrupt you.
you got a
I'll
thought?
say
Go for it. It's your
dumb.
birthday. It's your birthday. You can interrupt if you want to.
Well, what I was gonna say is like, I think the theme of like the XYZ doesn't matter, like theme we've had for the past few episodes.
Mhm.
Like the logic you should take from that is going back to like the main principles that we all preach, right? Like consistent training, consistent sleep, consistent good nutrition. Like it's not as complicated as the world makes it out to be,
Mhm.
but those behaviors do have complexities within them.
It's simple but not easy.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a big picture point. And I think that's so
Well,
important.
that's I mean, that's kind of what we were talking about. Like, don't worry about your freaking posture. Don't worry about what was the other thing?
Stretching.
Worry about filling the 3 main buckets.
Yeah. And it's hard to say, like, when somebody's like, well, I stretch and it feels good. Well, great. There's nothing wrong with that.
No,
But
stretch if it feels good.
to your point again, it's if you're focusing on the periphery, if you're focusing on the novelty aspect, but you're not focusing on the critical pieces like sleep, like training, like nutritional consistency, then it's hard for us to be like, yeah, go ahead and take more time into these things that have been proven over and over and over again to be not statistically significant or relevant for what you're trying to accomplish. Like, let's nail down the things that are actually proven that we know work and that are simple but not easy. So, what can we do to shape that? And that's hard, right? Because you're talking about human behavior and you're talking about people's life, day in, day out life, like schedules and kids and work.
Dentist appointments.
Dentist appointments where you can't eat pizza for 2 hours, even though you watch your coworkers chow down. Yeah, things like that becomes very hard. And we talked about super early on, right? We had speed bumps, roadblocks, and dead ends for a lot of people. And people oftentimes experience all three at any one point. And, you know, a roadblock could be COVID or a disease or something that stops them in their tracks because they can't do anything. But that roadblock becomes a speed bump after 10 days. But the behavior that's already entrenched in their new routine that's already built makes that speed bump seem like an ongoing roadblock. So a lot of times people want to continue with what's in front of them. Change is very hard for people. So they will keep doing that. And a lot of times they make connections to lesser evil or the easiest thing in front of them. So it is tough. So that maybe on this episode we could talk about some things that are good, some things that they can do to keep their body moving. That's more, let's say, maybe accessory or little fine tuning things, right? So yeah, maybe stretching isn't what they're looking for in terms of feeling better or feeling less stiff, but what are some things that they could do to fill in some of those blanks to get them from maybe work or home to feeling a little bit better without spending time at the gym or before they spend time in the gym or things like that? Because we get a lot of people that complain about being stiff and having back pain and feeling achy, but not necessarily being debilitated. And they can maybe feel a progression of their body getting stiffer and stiffer. And they don't like how they're feeling, even though they might be working out and making gains and getting stronger. But these moments in between, right, as they live life, are not feeling great. So, like, what would you recommend to an office worker that sits for 8 hours a day, or somebody that is in their car for a while, or somebody that just feels stiff and they know they are maybe conditioned well and they're fit, but still day in and day out they don't feel great?
This is a really long way to ask that question.
You gotta set it up. You gotta set it up, Megan.
Off the top of my head, it would be any type of movement. Like get your heart rate up. I think my brain first goes to any type of like rotational movement because we don't get a lot of that. And in the examples you were talking about, like, well, life is in the sagittal plane more than anything. So any type of rotation, I think, can be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Getting your heart rate up, literally any movement.
Yeah, just get up and move. If you're going to sit for 8 hours a day, in between meetings or in between emails, getting up and even just walking a little bit can help. Or like Megan said, do some like rotations of some kind. Anything we talked about in the posture episode, like one position for a long time, whether that's quote good or bad posture, typically can become could become painful or just not comfortable. So getting out of the one position after a while will help.
Yeah, there's no one position that feels great. Absolutely, I think.
What is happening?
I think
This is a good position.
that's a chill podcast position. You were this close from getting a Cremasteric Thunder Punch.
Oh no.
Oh my god.
That's Gene's fantasy football team name, by the way. Google it if you want.
Crewmaster Thunder Punch.
Cremasteric Thunder Punch, but yes, in essence, yes.
Oh my god.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh god.
Um,
I think anything that would promote tissue health can help with feelings of stiffness also.
I think oftentimes, I know you use the example of sitting for 8 hours, but as physical therapists, and when we see people with the diagnosis of osteoarthritis, a lot of times it's like first thing in the morning, they feel like they're just super stiff and like they can't move. But I like to, and then they usually say, but after I get walking and moving a little bit, it kind of loosens up. And I like to point out that that's always a good thing to me. If we can move more and feel better, that's not a problem.
It proves
that's-
to your body. It gives
yeah.
your body permission that movement is okay.
Right. Kind of going back to the same position for 8 hours. When we sleep, we're in a relative same position for 8 hours straight, and we get up and we feel stiff sometimes. So anytime people say that they feel better once they get moving, it's like our job is half done. We just have to convince them to do that more, and they'll be good to go.
Yeah, I think a lot of people need a pattern. They need to see a pattern. Like most people will want a cause and effect. I feel this, therefore I need to do this. Or if I do this, then this will happen. And I think this is why people gravitate towards stretching and posture and things like that, because it's cause and effect. I do this, I feel this, therefore, right? The cause and effect is accurate. If I do this, I feel this. What's not accurate is the extrapolation they make after the fact. Then I'll be more flexible. Then I'll have less pain. Then this will happen. And I think having people buy into you don't need a then if you are processing what you're doing in the moment, meaning that if you're sitting at your desk and you're super stiff and you get up from your desk and you do some rotational exercises and you feel better, that's it. Accept that as is, not that it'll be better tomorrow or something will happen later on. Accept that in that present moment, right? I think that's the big thing to accept for most people is that they try to make these extrapolations for what they're trying to accomplish, and they don't need to. And this is why if they want to stretch to feel good, by all means, like
Go for it.
go for it. Just accept that you're doing it for feeling good. Same way we did our study with recovery tools from Hyperice, right? We called it the feel good gun. If you like that and you want to spend $300 on a very high quality tool, right? Like we used the bejesus out of those things for 3 months, and they did great. They stood up and they look brand new still, and it feels good. Go for it. And truly, the one thing that will extrapolate out is consistent training, right? We've seen that loading and progression and all the programming that we do, but most people will not do that because they don't know how to do that. So they need to find a way.
And there's often not that instant, I do this and I feel better. Sometimes they do this, they exercise and they don't feel better. Yeah. Maybe they feel worse in the short term. And it's hard for somebody to be convinced that this is good for them when there isn't that instant benefit that they can see.
Yeah.
Yeah, because for most people, it's not necessarily the exercising or the workouts that help them. It's the process of doing it, right? So everything that their body goes through, holding the weight, moving the weight through a range, the little spaces in between are just as beneficial for people. Taking the time to go to the gym, as long as they're not wasting it. That's a reference to our previous episode. But for a lot of people that spend so much time at work or kids or whatever, those are pockets of stress for them. So sometimes just putting themselves in a different position or driving to group classes or whatever, yoga, whatever it could be, that in itself is already an aspect of getting better and feeling better, right? Because they're putting themselves in a different space that is conducive to health and feeling better. But people don't think about that, right? They don't think about, hey, me driving to this place is already in my brain is decompressing and putting myself in a state of feeling better because it's a part of stress management. So that pattern recognition is really tough. What about things like mobility training? I got that question.
What do you
Um,
mean by mobility?
so somebody
training?
asked, like on that stretching episode, we differentiated flexibility from extensibility from mobility. And somebody was like, well, you said that stretching takes a long time, and obviously the tissues don't stay in that position. But what about joints? He said mobility is joints, and muscles move around joints. Taught that to our member. You're still playing with your microphone.
It keeps running away from
I
me.
wonder why. Mhm.
You probably have pizza breath.
Pizza breath, definitely. So they were like,
You
well,
wish you had pizza breath.
I know.
oh, wow.
It's sitting right over there, just taunting me. Tear.
Here.
Sorry. What do you mean by mobility training?
So somebody asked, they're like, I get flexibility. The tissues don't want to stretch. It takes a long time. I get that. But they were like, with mobility, we said that mobility is the joint's ability to move through a range of motion. And if a joint moves better, does that mean that the rest of the tissues move better as well? Which was a good question. So
So they're asking if
is there more benefit to mobility training? Should they be doing mobility work, not stretch work? And is that a bigger or better bang for your buck than stretching?
I think my answer is yes.
Say more.
Say more.
Say more.
Well, in terms of like, should I stretch or should I do mobility work?
Should I stay or should I go? Yes.
Oh my god. I hate it here. Um,
Yet your eyes say different.
it in answer to the question of like, should I stretch or should I do mobility work? Like, if I had to do one, which one should I do? I would say more mobility because that's gonna be like my brain goes to like training and limitations there and like being able to sit into end range positions. That's going to be more of a restriction of your joint than it is your muscles in most cases. So if you're going to pick one, I would say do mobility training. Do I think it's necessary? It depends. But I do think you get more bang for your buck doing that than our typical definition or our typical understanding of stretching.
I'd buy into that. What do you think?
Yeah, same. I think anytime you're moving a joint through a range of motion and not necessarily just pausing at a certain spot, I think you'll get more bang for your buck. If I had all of our listeners stand up and reach down and touch their toes and measure how far away they were, and then have them reach down 10 times, they'll probably get a little bit further. And in that 10 times, their hamstrings didn't get longer, but just the dynamic movement in general and all the benefits that come to that gave them more, quote, mobility or flexibility or whatnot. So I think there is some benefit of repeated movements like that. And a lot of our members, when we do like our warm-ups or our cool downs, we might have components that are similar to stretching. A lot of them are more
They feel good.
because they feel good. A lot of them are more dynamic in nature anyway. We do like thoracic rotations or like plank to downward dog where we're going in and out of a motion. And I think that was where some of our members were confused. We're like, aren't we stretching right now? And we're like,
We didn't say it was bad.
yeah.
We said it feels good.
And it's more of a dynamic thing that we're doing. But I think there's some benefit to that.
The next like thought that I had is like, let's say somebody does want to increase their flexibility or tissue extensibility.
Yeah.
Like if I'm thinking of like dorsiflexion, so bringing your toes up to like your knee, that motion, which is required in a whole host of like daily life activities, specifically squat. That's what I'm thinking of right now. Let's say this person does not have a whole lot of gastroc length or calf muscle length there, but they also have really shitty joint mobility at the ankle. If you improve the joint mobility, like the congruency there, that will also over time allow the gastroc to lengthen as well, versus if you're just trying to stretch that gastroc, but that ankle joint only can go so far, like you're not ever going to see any improvements, versus if you're doing joint mobility over time, you'll get more bang for your buck, quite literally. Like it'll solve both problems. eventually.
Yeah, all that makes sense. I think you can make a strong case for mobility work or spending time on mobility, just because range of motion is so important. If you don't have full range of motion, you're even if you're strengthening within a limited range of motion, you're kind of getting it's the best of the worst kind of situation.
Yeah, we see that all the time in pathways. People come in and we mention or we have them show us what a squat is, and they can do a partial squat, and they can even hang on to a kettlebell while they do that. And we tell them to touch their butt to the bench, and they can't come back up without using their hands. And it's just being strong in a partial range of motion doesn't do you much good.
No, it doesn't. And I think if nothing else, with working on mobility, the and truly working on joints, it's you are forced into end ranges, right? You there's
And
no
controlling
working
those end ranges.
right. There's no working mobility without hitting end ranges, and that I think goes to one understanding your body in space, because your brain processes end range more than any other motion, right? The best example I always give people is if you bend your elbow and you close your eyes and you try to kind of figure out where your elbow is and then put your elbow again in that same position, it's really hard. But if you straighten it and you try to straighten it more, you feel that jolt of sensation right away, because when a joint goes to end range, your brain screams, "This is it." If you go any further, there might be danger, and you shouldn't do it. So mobility work forces you to end ranges, and so much of our life is lived in mid and short ranges. So giving your body that novel stimulus of end range just not only feels good, but gives your joints some loading and a little bit of health.
It's also healthy to go through full range when it's available.
Yeah.
Like, I went to a course once and they compared it to this is again going back to like squats, and when there was a time when people thought like partial squats were better than full depth squats.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a bunch of study done and all that, and we figured out it's better to go through the full range of motion if you are able to get there based on other mobility components. But like if you think of it like there's just if you're only going through a partial range of motion, all of that force with whatever given movement you're doing is only going through that small little bit, versus if it basically distributes the force, right? Like if I were to pinch Corey, like
Ow!
I didn't see that.
it
Can you
is
do it
a
again?
small thing, versus if I went like that,
Ow!
it doesn't feel as
Oh,
bad.
it didn't feel as bad.
It
Yeah.
distributes the force.
What
It's
if
like you're
you-
rotating your tires.
What if you pull out one hair versus grabbing his arm? And
I
pulling out the
finally have
left?
arm hair again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a naked mole rat for a while. You guys remember if you listen to the podcast,
Yeah.
I used to do aquatic therapy and all we went
We
away.
used to shave him before podcast.
No. More aerodynamic that way.
Shave the Corey.
Corey.
Yeah, the end range is important, and it's. I think she just visualized shaving you.
No, I went back to the pinch and the ow.
The tears welling up. Me. Those girls, weren't we just talking about the other day where the girls would chase you on the playground in elementary school to pick on you?
Yeah, they called me Coco.
That bring back memories, catching you and pinching,
Pinching
you.
me, yeah.
Oh,
No,
Coco.
they never caught me. It was too fast.
Were you naked mole rat then?
No.
Yeah. All right, Coco. It's also practical and functional, because you have to, like Corey was alluding to, you have to be able to get through ranges and typically end ranges when you're training, right? Because unless you're bodybuilding and body composition, sometimes you stick in shortened ranges to work the muscles and isolate them a little bit. But for most people, end range, full range, and loading your joints at those end ranges feels pretty good. And that's part of our approach a lot of times for people with various types of pain, especially back pain, right? Is get them to end range, because the nervous system in your brain can process that sensation a lot better, and ultimately help you process whatever you're dealing with in those end ranges. But yeah, it is tough. So mobility work, purposeful mobility work makes sense, right? As long as you kind of have a plan and mindset going in of why you're doing it. End ranges I think is great. I agree wholeheartedly with you. I think people are significantly under rotated. So work in a transverse plane. Just so much of life is in bending forward and back and in front of us. So twisting just feels good because you don't do it.
Yeah.
If
Yeah. It's a novel movement.
such a simple
Which
thing
is
to
why
do.
I think stiffness pops up because there's no sense of novelty.
Yeah.
Which is why literally doing almost anything can make stiffness feel better.
Yeah, as long as there's a plan, right? Because if you're stiff,
You and your plans.
gotta have a plan. If you keep throwing arbitrary shit at the
It's
wall or
not
at your body,
arbitrary.
it is if you don't know what you're doing. Because if you do it the first few times, it still might not feel great, and you might be like, "Oh," because novelty when it's first processed isn't processed as great. This is new, so I don't know if I should process this as good or bad. So if you're like, I know how it will feel because I haven't done it, and then you progress it properly, aka a plan, then it becomes a positive. But anything can be on the spectrum of good or bad if you approach it
Okay.
without a plan.
Megan does not have time to argue today.
No.
It's her birthday.
I feel like that's the time to really argue when it's your birthday.
I'm tired.
Already?
Mm-hmm. I got a lot of sleep too. I don't know why I'm tired right
Got a
now.
long day to go.
Mhm.
All right. Thanks for tuning in. Let us know your thoughts on this conversation. I'm curious, is it confusing us being so adamantly not against, but laying out the framework for stretching is not beneficial? Posture doesn't matter, but saying joints are important and working the joints and taking them to end range is important. Does that, did you understand the difference between that and flexibility and why the joints play a bigger role? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. So leave a comment below if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, you can leave a comment, or Spotify or whatever. You can leave a comment in the podcast section of that in the audio version. Of course, you can head over to IG at RechargeXFit and DM us.
IG?
IG.
Oh my god.
That's how the cool kids say it now.
Really?
No.
They do now because I said it.
No.
Let us know what you think. Make sure you subscribe and like wherever you are. And we'll catch you again on the next episode of the Movement is Medicine podcast from Recharge.
Bye.